Her son seated her by the dessert table, on a metal folding chair, at his own promotion dinner. Marie Landon, retired office manager and widow, didn't say a word. Derek raised his glass, toasted chosen family, and pretended she wasn't in the room. By spring, he'd be erased from her will, her trust, and the home he once crawled through in diapers. She'd spent decades giving him everything. Now she was taking back her name, line by line, clause by clause, and when he tried to claim what was never truly his, he'd learn what it feels like to be politely excluded, permanently. All right, before we dive into this crazy story, do me a favor. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching from. The valet shut the door before Marie could gather her purse properly. She blinked into the golden wash of the restaurant's front lights. A soft clink of laughter drifting through the tall glass windows. Her heels struck the cobblestone path as if trying to announce her presence to someone, anyone inside. She paused just outside the entrance, her reflection caught in the beveled glass. Lipstick fine, hair in place, wrinkles smoothed as much as they'd go. The dress, a conservative navy sheath, clung to her arms, slightly too tight in the biceps. She shifted her clutch under one arm, inhaled once, and pushed the door open. Inside, the private dining room glowed like a jewelry box. Gold sconces lit up the dark wood panels, and a long white table stretched the length of the room, set for 16. Tall wine glasses, crisp linens, and candles in crystal holders flickered beside polished plates. A waiter passed with a tray of oysters and lemon wedges. The scent hit Marie fast. Salt. Brine. A memory she didn't want. Marie. Celia's voice snapped like a twig underfoot. She turned. Celia stood beside the table, one hand resting on the back of Derek's chair. Blonde, slim, in a sleeveless ivory jumpsuit that hugged her perfectly. Oh good. You made it. Made it. Like Marie had been invited to a PTA potluck, not her son's promotion dinner. Derek didn't get up. His face lit with that practiced smile she knew from childhood, used on principals, scout leaders, and now, apparently, his law firm. Hey, Mom. Congratulations, she said, stepping forward. But before she could lean in for a hug, he was already turning toward a colleague. Thanks. That's Judge Templeton on the end there. Don't let him talk your ear off. A polite chuckle circled the table. Marie stood blinking under the chandelier. Everyone else was seated. Glass in hand, napkins unfolded. Laughter, low murmurs, the faint hum of the HVAC overhead. No one motioned for her. No one made space. Then Derek pointed, not with his hand, but with his chin, toward the far corner of the room. There's a seat for you, Mom. Marie followed his gaze. Tucked between the dessert table and the air conditioning vent, barely fitting between two columns, was a single metal folding chair. No cushion, no armrests, the kind you keep in garages or church basements. For half a second she thought it must be a mistake. A server's chair. An extra. But Celia gave a small, satisfied nod. It's the best we could do, she said, as if Marie had asked. Marie crossed the room. The carpet muffled her steps now. She passed Derek's colleagues, young lawyers with sleek hair and expensive watches. Their laughter smooth and lubricated with top-shelf scotch. A woman in a halter dress murmured something into Derek's ear, and he grinned. She sat stiffly, knees tight together, purse in her lap. The chair groaned beneath her. From here, the table was partially blocked by a tall flower arrangement. She could barely see the toast Derek gave 5 minutes later. Something about hard work, mentors, gratitude. The clink of glasses never made it down to her end. No one offered to scoot over. No one noticed her chilled shoulders beneath the AC vent that whispered cold air down her neck like a cruel joke. She reached for the small bread plate near her only to realize there wasn't one. No place setting. No water glass. Not even a napkin. The server who passed her didn't stop. She sat back slowly, fingers gripping the edge of the chair, fighting the tremble rising up her spine. She had raised this boy, paid for college with waitressing tips and cleaning offices at midnight. She'd sold her mother's rings to cover his LSAT prep courses, stood in the rain when his car broke down, took overtime shifts when he needed a new laptop. And now, she was a shadow in a corner, beside a half-melted chocolate torte and a rattling vent. Marie shifted slightly to the side, just enough to see the full table. 16 people, all basking in her son's success, sipping vintage red, sharing inside jokes she wasn't part of. She looked at Derek. He caught her eye for just a second, just long enough to register her, but didn't smile, didn't get up, didn't change a thing. She pressed her lips together and turned her face back toward the blank wall, her hands clenched in her lap. From the other side of the flower arrangement, Celia's voice drifted through, high and clear. "She always finds a way to show up, doesn't she?" Laughter. Then a server set a second bottle of wine on the table, and someone toasted again. Marie didn't move, but inside, something cold and sharp began to settle in her chest, inch by inch. Like a key turning. The wine flowed. Laughter lifted like steam. Derek was standing again, one hand loosely holding his glass, the other resting on Celia's shoulder. Marie sat quietly, both hands wrapped around the stem of her untouched water glass. No one looked in her direction. She had no wine glass to raise and no reason to pretend. Derek's voice was warm, polished, a performance honed from years of courtroom charm. "I couldn't have done this without my incredible wife. Celia's been my rock through all of it, and of course, my amazing team. This promotion isn't mine alone. It belongs to everyone who believed in me." Scattered applause, clinking glass. Marie sipped her water, cold and metallic. Her lipstick left a pale smudge on the rim. No mention of his mother, not even the decency of a generic "to my family." Celia beamed beside him, dabbing fake tears at the corners of her eyes. Then she turned to the group. "Derek and I both had complicated childhoods," she began, and the table went still with performative attentiveness. "But therapy, good mentors, and hard work helped us shape something beautiful out of the chaos." A few solemn nods. Marie blinked, her jaw clenched so hard it ached behind her molars. Therapy helped? Good mentors? She'd worked night shifts and doubled up on utility bills to buy Derek braces. She taught him to tie a tie before debate finals. She stitched his pants by hand when they couldn't afford new ones. But now she was a specter at the edge of the narrative, edited out of her own son's origin story. A waiter leaned over her without a word and set down a square of flourless chocolate cake. She hadn't even finished her salmon. The warm plate was lifted away before she could protest, replaced with dessert she didn't ask for. Across the table, Derek fed Celia a bite of cake, her smile wide and camera ready as someone snapped a photo. Marie moved her plate to the side, the sweetness cloying in her nose. Another glass broke at a nearby table. More laughter. Someone spilled wine and made a joke about billable hours. A junior associate leaned toward Derek and whispered something that made him laugh, really laugh, the kind he used to save just for her when he was small and needed reassurance. Marie stood, slowly. No one noticed. She moved quietly, almost invisible, around the table and toward the bar cart where used glassware had started to pile. 2 empty champagne flutes. A plate with a bite of scallop abandoned mid-conversation. She collected what she could, stacking neatly, careful not to clink too loudly. A server raised an eyebrow at her. "I've got it," she whispered, nodding toward the mess. "I don't mind." She did, but it was something to do. Something to anchor her hands while her heart slipped further beneath the surface. As she turned back toward her chair, still the only one without a real place setting, Her phone vibrated in her clutch. One buzz, then two. She slid it open beneath the tablecloth. Angela. How was it? Did he say anything nice? Marie stared at the screen. The question should have been simple, but her thumbs didn't move. The music shifted in the background, something jazzy, effortless. The air was thick with perfume and the aftertaste of laughter Marie wasn't part of. Another text buzzed in. Angela, you okay? Marie looked up. Derek had his arm around Celia's waist now, smiling as a junior partner gave a second toast. Something about leadership and loyalty. She typed slowly, deliberately, as if each word needed to pass through a locked door. Marie, it was beautiful. Really something. She hit send. And then, because she didn't trust herself to say anything else, she turned her phone over and slid it beneath the edge of her metal chair. Her hands were shaking. From cold or rage or something deeper she didn't know. She reached for her water again. It was warm now. Stale. Across the room, Derek raised another glass. To chosen family, he said, and Marie realized, with ice settling in her bones. She hadn't been chosen at all. Morning came with silence and sun, the kind of light that's too honest. Marie sat at the edge of her bed, one sock on, the other still crumpled in her hand. Her phone buzzed again. Another notification, then another. The screen was a constellation of tags and alerts she didn't want, but couldn't ignore. She unlocked it. Instagram first. There they were. Bright, happy, filtered. Celia's curls cascading perfectly over one shoulder, Derek's blazer crisp against the velvet booth. The caption read, "Grateful beyond words. Family means showing up for those who raised you right." Key promotion. Gratitude. Chosen family. Marie's stomach hollowed out. She scrolled. Another post. A group photo. Derek, Celia, their lawyer friends, the judge at the end of the table. Champagne flutes raised mid-toast, mouths open in laughter, the kind of picture people would print and frame. She leaned closer. She wasn't in it. Not at the table. Not in the mirror behind them. Not even in the blurry edge. She swiped again. This one from Celia's friend with the halter dress. The caption. Some people carry you. Some people hold you back. Blessed to celebrate the ones who lifted each other up. Growth, fog, healing. The photo had been edited, obviously. The lighting didn't even match. But Marie's chair, the one shoved by the dessert table, had been cleanly cropped out, replaced with a soft blur, like she hadn't even been there. Her thumb hovered. Then she closed the app. A text popped up. Angela. Saw the posts. The hell? Another. You were there. Why aren't you in any of them? Marie didn't answer. She stared at the carpet instead. The same beige pile she'd vacuumed 100 times, the one Derek had played on as a boy, building Lego castles too big to step around. Her eyes burned. Not from tears. Something else. Something older. She walked to the hallway closet, pulled the stool from beneath the coats, and reached up to the highest shelf. Behind a shoebox and a broken umbrella was the brown leather binder, her old scrapbook. The one she hadn't touched in years. It still smelled faintly like glue sticks and photocopier ink. She carried it back to the kitchen table and flipped it open. First grade, Derek's reading report. Her handwriting in the margin. Read with him 3 nights a week. He's improving. Third grade, a crayon drawing of their old apartment, with Derek smiling in front of the door. Fifth grade, a note from the principal, thanking Marie for her unwavering support in Derek's science fair victory. She turned the pages slowly, careful not to smear the old ink with her fingertips. Each paper, each scribbled comment, every single smile, all hers. Every piece of who Derek had become was here, pressed flat in glossy sheet protectors, unfiltered and unforgiving. She stopped at a family photo tucked into the back. Not a posed portrait, just a casual shot on a hot July day, the three of them squinting into the sun. Her, her husband James, and little Derek, who sat on her shoulders with sticky fingers and grass stains on his knees. She touched James's face with her thumb. His smile had always been crooked, half lost in thought, like he never fully left the war behind. He died too soon to see any of this. Derek's suits, his stiff chin pointing, the cold metal chairs. And yet, Marie couldn't help but wonder what he would have said if he'd seen that night. Seen their son act like the past had never happened. Like Marie hadn't raised him through eviction notices, busted transmissions, and peanut butter for dinner 3 nights a week. The photo in her hand was untouched. No edits, no filters, no one cropped out. Angela's phone number blinked on her screen again. Marie didn't reply. Instead, she laid the family photo flat on the table and stared at it until her coffee went cold. The edges were curling now, lifting up at the corners, but it was still real. Still there. Not like her son's new version of the truth. The office smelled like cedar and competence. Soft jazz drifted from hidden speakers, the kind chosen to make retirees feel young and successful. Marie sat on the far side of a wide mahogany desk, her purse tucked neatly at her feet, hands folded over the crisp manila folder in front of her. Connor Ridgway leaned back in his ergonomic chair, fingers steepled as he skimmed the screen. A subtle frown tugged at the corner of his mouth, more curiosity than concern. "Let me get this straight," he said finally. "You haven't touched your Roth or your SEP IRA since James passed?" Marie nodded, calm. "Didn't need to." He glanced again at the figures. "You've been living off, what, Social Security and bond dividends? And a modest annuity?" she added. "I keep a budget." Connor let out a low whistle. He turned the monitor so she could see the totals. $1.42 million. Not including her fully paid-off house. Marie didn't blink. "Does your son know?" he asked, tapping the screen gently. She met his eyes, voice flat. "They treat me like a relic, Connor. Like someone who should be grateful for folding chairs and filtered-out photos." He sat back, his tone shifting. Measured, respectful now. "You're not the average widow I see in here." "No," Marie agreed. "I never have been." He opened a new file and clicked through tabs as he spoke. "So, you mentioned setting up a living trust. You want to protect your assets, keep things out of probate, control how things are passed down." "I want clarity," she said. "I want intention." Connor nodded. "You'll need to name beneficiaries. Children, grandchildren, if applicable." Marie took her time opening her bag. Removed a small leather notebook. No names were listed on the pages, just values, causes. One line read, in her tidy cursive, "People who show up without needing a spotlight." "I don't have grandchildren," she said finally, "and I won't be naming any children." Connor's fingers paused on the keyboard. "No children?" She gave him a calm, steady look. "This trust is for people who remember me at the table." There was a long beat of silence. He cleared his throat. "That's quite a statement." "I'm done waiting for permission to matter, Connor." She said it quietly, not bitterly, not with heat, just like fact. He leaned forward again, voice low. "You know, most folks who walk through that door are scrambling. You built this yourself. Quietly, steadily. No one knows. Do they?" Marie let a slow smile tug at her mouth. "They think I need rescuing. A retirement center. A hobby." He returned the smile, more thoughtful than amused. "So this is about legacy?" "No," she said. "It's about dignity." He nodded once and began typing. The screen reflected faintly in his wire-rimmed glasses. Asset allocations, contingencies, long-term charitable clauses. Marie watched it all unfold. The math of intention. A name came to mind. Angela. She'd shown up. She always did. With grocery runs and sarcastic text messages and biting honesty that cut through fog like headlights. But Marie said nothing. Not yet. Not even to Connor. She watched her future unfold on the monitor, one column at a time. When the paperwork was ready, Connor printed the first set of forms and slid them across the desk. Marie uncapped the pen with a crisp, steady hand and began signing. There were 18 pages. She signed every one without hesitation. When it was done, Connor stood to shake her hand. "If I may say, Mrs. Harlan, this is the cleanest power move I've seen all year." Marie chuckled softly, the sound low and unfamiliar. "That's because I haven't made the mess yet." She picked up her purse, tucked the notebook away, and stood. Her spine was straighter now, not stiff, just sure. Connor walked her to the elevator, still glancing back at the forms on his desk. As the doors closed in front of her, Marie caught her reflection in the polished metal. No soft blur, no crop, no edits. Just her. Exactly where she chose to be. The hostess led Marie through the white-tiled bistro with its Edison bulbs and reclaimed wood everything, the kind of place Celia always described as casually elevated. Derek stood when he saw her, a performative half-rise that ended before his chair fully left the floor. Celia remained seated, stirring an iced lavender latte with a gold metal straw. There was a leather binder on the table, thick and zipped, next to a pile of glossy pamphlets. "Hi, Mom," Derek said, gesturing to the seat across from them. "We already ordered coffee for you. Hope that's okay." Marie slid into the seat, placing her purse gently in her lap. "That's fine. No hugs, no apologies, just paper." Celia reached into her tote and pulled out another set of documents. "We know it's been an intense week, with the party and everything. So we thought it would be good to sit down and talk long-term." She pushed a trifold brochure toward Marie. Sunset Pines, independent and assisted living communities. Elegant, secure, peaceful. Marie looked at the photo of an elderly woman playing chess with a nurse who looked staged and 15 years too young for the job. Derek chimed in. "We're just trying to help you downsize, Mom. Get ahead of the curve, be proactive." Celia opened the leather binder with a soft zip that sounded louder than it should have. "We've outlined a few suggestions," she said, flipping to a tab labeled Financial Overview. "Just some ideas on how your accounts could be better structured, especially if we start transitioning things now." Marie let her eyes drift down the sheet. Joint signatory options, guardianship protocols, liquidation strategies, all carefully typed in a font that mimicked gentleness. She smiled faintly and flipped another page, then another. When she reached the section labeled End-of-Life Directives, she gently closed the binder and set it aside. "I'm touched," she said evenly, "that you two care so deeply about my future." Celia gave a tight smile, mistaking it for surrender. "We just want to make sure you're set up for success." Marie nodded, finished her coffee in a single sip, and stood. "I have another meeting." Derek blinked. "Wait, you're leaving?" "Yes," she said, lifting her purse. Brunch was enlightening. She walked out without looking back, the bell above the door chiming with a polite finality. 2 blocks away, in a quieter cafe with scuffed wooden floors and real coffee mugs, Angela sat by the window with a plain bagel and black coffee. She glanced up, spotted Marie, and waved. Marie approached without ceremony and slid a blue folder across the table. It was thick but precise. No waste, no filler. Angela raised an eyebrow. "What's this?" "My living trust," Marie said, settling into the chair. "Drafted, witnessed, ready for notarization." Angela opened it, flipping through page after page of clean legalese, her eyes scanning quickly until she hit her own name. Executor, Angela Monroe. She looked up sharply. You're serious? Marie nodded. You've always shown up. No performance, no agenda. You've seen me. That matters. Angela exhaled, overwhelmed in a way that didn't come with tears, just gravity. And Derek? Marie's voice turned iron flat. Derek and Celia are legally barred from contesting the estate. It's in the codicil. Angela blinked. You're cutting them out. I'm cutting the lie out, Marie corrected. They edited me out of their stories. I'm just returning the favor. Angela closed the folder slowly, reverently. You sure about this? I'm done being erased politely. Marie's voice didn't waver. If they want to pretend I never mattered, let them find out what absence really feels like. Angela gave a low whistle, then leaned back in her chair, eyeing her friend with new weight. You're not playing around anymore. No, Marie said. I've played along long enough. They sat for a moment in shared silence, broken only by the hiss of the espresso machine and the muted hum of morning. Then Marie reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. She opened the photo app, not for Derek's doctored party posts, but for the untouched image she'd taken earlier, the family photo from the scrapbook, laid flat on her kitchen table, curling edges and all. She turned the screen toward Angela. This, she said, is what real family looks like. Angela nodded once, slowly. You want me to file this tomorrow? Marie didn't answer immediately. She just looked out the window, where the city moved along, indifferent and ordinary. She'd walked these streets with Derek in a stroller, pulled him out of tantrums on these corners, counted coins in her glove box just blocks from here to buy him lunch. She tapped the folder gently. File it, and make sure the copies go exactly where they're supposed to. Angela gave a mock salute. Yes, ma'am. As Marie stood to leave, she turned back once. Angela? Yeah. Do me a favor. When this all comes down, and it will, don't defend me. Don't soften it. Let them sit with the shape of what they made. Angela's gaze didn't waver. I will. Marie stepped out into the cool morning air, the sun already climbing but not yet blinding. Her heels clicked against the pavement like punctuation. Every step deliberate. The invitation came in a group email, just like the others. Subject: Family Game Night. Pizza, wine, and laughs. Saturday at 6. Underneath, a Canva graphic of dominoes and cartoon champagne flutes. Celia's touch. Plastic and impersonal, like a mall poster for a blood drive. Marie stared at it for a few seconds, then clicked delete. She didn't RSVP, didn't offer an excuse, didn't ask what time she should bring the dessert. Instead, she clicked over to Angela's fundraiser page, a modest GoFundMe titled Murals That Remember Us, aimed at revitalizing the rundown rec center where Angela ran weekend art classes. Marie scrolled past the selfies and paint-stained hands until she reached the donation form. Amount: $10,000. She paused, then added a private note. Use this for something they can't Photoshop. She hit submit and exhaled like she'd just unlatched something buried under her ribs. That Saturday, while Celia's wine bottles clinked and Derek's curated Spotify playlist played to a room full of colleagues who laughed at all the right pauses, Marie's phone buzzed once. A text from Derek. You missed a great night. Everyone asked about you. No emoji, no photo, just a line crafted to feel like inclusion and land like guilt. Marie looked at it, then turned her phone face down. She made no reply. Later that night, she got an alert. Celia had posted a new Instagram reel. The thumbnail was a slow pan across their living room. Warm lighting, expensive rugs, candlelight dinners. Derek in a crisp polo, placing a game board on the table like it was the heart of a family. The reel's title was centered in script: Building a legacy means knowing what to leave behind. The caption: Not everyone's meant to be in the room where growth happens. Family forward ish. Breaking cycles. Boundaries. Marie watched the video only once, then closed the app for good. She reached for her camera, the one James bought her before cell phones started pretending to be everything. It still worked. Still clicked, with that satisfying shutter sound that made you slow down before taking a shot. She grabbed her coat, stepped outside, and headed toward the beach park. The night was cool but gentle, the kind of late spring evening where the breeze rolled in like a sigh. The sand was mostly empty, save for a few teens with Bluetooth speakers and barefoot lovers leaving asymmetrical footprints behind. Marie didn't take pictures at first. She just walked, camera straps slung across her chest like armor. She listened to the water roll in and pull back, watched the moon smear silver across the surf. She stopped at the boardwalk, lifted the camera, framed the view. Click. A couple walking a brindle dog. Click. A lonely bench under a rusted lamp, casting long shadows like stretched-out ghosts. Click. The shoreline, where the tide had erased everything that came before. She sat down on the bench, camera in her lap, and let the silence settle. There was no one here telling her where to sit. No flower arrangement blocking her view. No toast that forgot her name. She belonged to herself again. She turned the lens toward the sky, past the streetlights, past the condos behind her, up to the open dark that asked for nothing and gave everything. Click. A photo no one could crop. The first tee was supposed to be small. Marie baked a lemon loaf and set out 6 mismatched mugs on her back patio, the ones with fading floral prints and tiny chips that made them feel earned, not bought. She clipped wild sprigs of rosemary from the yard, dropped them into the water pitcher with lemon slices, and waited. 3 women came. One brought banana bread, one brought tissues, one brought silence. They sat under the string lights Marie had strung herself, warm and golden and forgiving. There were no speeches, no agenda. Just the sound of spoons tapping gently and the slow exhale of people realizing they didn't need to pretend. By the third tee, there were 10 chairs, then 12. Some sat on the steps. A folding table held a variety of cakes, tea blends, and donated mugs with peeling logos. Karma one grandma. Ask me about my dog. I survived jury duty. No one asked for RSVPs. They just showed up. The women were different in story but same in shadow. Mothers whose adult children only called on birthdays, grandmothers whose houses had been turned into storage overflow, retired teachers and nurses and secretaries who knew how to carry conversations but had nowhere to bring them. Word spread. By June, Marie added a handmade sign to the fence gate. Come in. You're not invisible here. One Thursday afternoon, Linda Ashford, president of the HOA and known for filing noise complaints over slightly too loud wind chimes, appeared with store-bought scones and a tentative smile. Someone mentioned, "You're doing something here?" she asked, adjusting her sunglasses. Marie gestured to an open seat. Only if you're tired of being politely ignored. Linda sat. She stayed through 2 refills, 3 stories, and 1 moment of tightly controlled weeping about her son's new wife never learning her name properly. When she rose to leave, she lingered. You know, she said, brushing crumbs off her slacks. The HOA board could use someone like you. Level-headed, community-minded, not performative. Marie didn't answer right away. Then she smiled. I'll think about it. Later that week, Angela arrived at Marie's house with a binder of receipts and a frown. You realize your name's starting to circulate in City Hall? People are asking who's funding these micro-scholarships at Roosevelt and Wilson High. Marie wiped her hands on a dish towel and raised a brow. Did you tell them? Of course not, but the registrar at Roosevelt almost cried when she saw the second check. Said it paid off a cafeteria worker's son's entire first year at community college. Marie opened the cupboard and pulled down 2 teacups. No logos this time, just white porcelain and quiet weight. Some kids need a door, others just need someone to hold it open. Angela sank into the kitchen chair, eyebrows drawn. You're building your own table now. Marie poured the tea. No, she said. I'm building one that never closes. They drank in companionable quiet. Outside, the light shifted on the hydrangeas in the yard. A child's laughter carried from the sidewalk, the sound of someone still believing everything could be fixed with popsicles and a good night's sleep. Later that evening, Marie sat on the porch and wrote names into a small notebook. Not of people she wanted to punish. Not anymore. These were people who noticed. The single mother who cleaned houses on her street and always brought back her trash bins. The retired vet who volunteered at the animal shelter but never asked for thanks. Linda, who came back the next week with hand-stitched bookmarks for every guest. They had stories no one was posting. Marie didn't need applause. She needed continuity. She was curating a legacy. Not a digital one, but a real, breathing, repeatable act of defiance against invisibility. The envelope came in the mail. Thick cardstock, gold foil lettering, embossed logo from Derek's law firm. You are cordially invited. A gala dinner. Business formal. Hosted at the city's historical club downtown, a place with oil portraits, valet parking, and dress codes written in the tone of old money. Marie stared at the envelope, then opened her laptop and typed a short email to the firm's event coordinator. It was direct, polite, and unmistakably firm. Please send me the seating chart in advance. I'd like to confirm my place. 3 days later, she received a call. Not from the coordinator. From Celia. Her voice was bright, brittle. Hi, Marie. Just wanted to touch base about the gala. We saw your note about the seating chart. Funny request. Haha. But you know how formal events are. Things shuffle. Marie didn't match the tone. You gave me the folding chair last time. A beat of silence. Oh, that was a space issue, Celia said quickly. We had to pivot last minute. I'm sure you understand. I do, Marie said, which is why I'm requesting clarity this time. Another pause. Then Celia tried to laugh, lightly. You're a tough cookie, huh? Marie didn't laugh. The silence that followed made the air feel colder, even over the phone line. I'll see you Saturday, Marie said, and hung up. She arrived 5 minutes before cocktail hour ended, in a midnight blue sheath dress and pearl earrings. Her hair was swept back into a twist, elegant, understated, deliberate. Derek spotted her from across the room and waved, surprised. Mom, you look like I belong here? She offered gently, accepting a glass of sparkling water from a passing tray. He smiled, unsure if it was a compliment or a challenge. The room buzzed with polished conversation and the confidence of people who thought eye contact counted as respect. Waiters floated like well-dressed ghosts. As the crowd moved toward the banquet hall, Marie walked without needing to ask where she sat. She already knew. Table 3, seat 8, far end, closest to the waitstaff entrance. Again. The chairs were velvet this time, not metal. But the placement carried the same message. Tolerated, not welcomed. Seen, but not heard. Marie didn't pause. She walked straight to the head of the table, a chair labeled with a gold name card, Mr. Russell Templeton, a senior partner, judging by the embossed initials on his cufflinks. Marie reached for the card, lifted it, walked it calmly to seat 8, then returned to the head of the table. She pulled the chair out with quiet confidence and sat down. No one said a word for a moment. Then Celia appeared beside her, smiling too hard. Oh, Marie, I think there's been a mix-up. That seat's reserved for... Marie looked up. For someone whose presence changes the room. Celia blinked. Sorry? Marie set her clutch on the table, composed. This is where I'll be sitting. She said it kindly, calmly, but with a finality that didn't invite correction. Across the room, Derek approached with 2 glasses of wine and a question already forming on his face. He never got to ask it. Marie reached for her glass of water and smiled. Did you know I've been funding scholarships across 3 high schools in this district? Derek faltered. No, I didn't. I don't post about it, Marie said. I just do it. He looked at Celia, then back at his mother. You didn't say anything. I wasn't asked, she replied. The rest of the table arrived shortly after. Mr. Templeton raised a brow at the switch but said nothing, choosing a seat further down without complaint. Marie greeted him warmly, even referenced an op-ed he'd written in the Bar Review Quarterly, a fact she hadn't known until the night before. Celia sat stiffly beside her, sipping wine with the controlled smile of someone trying not to sweat under foundation. Dinner proceeded as planned, but the table had shifted, and everyone felt it. The lights dimmed slightly as Derek stood at the podium, notes in hand, voice steady. Behind him, a massive projection screen displayed the firm's achievements, annual milestones, and community outreach highlights in crisp serif font. He glanced up, scanning the sea of tuxedos and sequins, and took a breath. This year, Derek began, our firm has taken bold steps forward, in litigation, in innovation, and in service to the community. Murmurs of polite approval rippled through the banquet hall. Champagne flutes clinked quietly. Marie watched from table 3, her expression unreadable. Celia sat beside her with the tension of a cat balancing on a railing. Shoulders high, back stiff, fingers clenched around her linen napkin. Derek gestured to the screen as it flipped to a new slide. In collaboration with our nonprofit partners, we're proud to celebrate the groundbreaking of the new East Side Youth Empowerment Center. Applause. Light. Restrained. A space built for mentorship, academic resources, and mental health support. And tonight, we'd like to recognize the lead donor who made this entire project possible. A pause. The screen flickered again. Then a name appeared, bold and gold, larger than any logo. Marie T. Landon, lead benefactor. East Side Youth Empowerment Center. Gasps broke through the room like air escaping a sealed vault. Cameras flashed. Marie didn't blink. Derek froze at the podium, reading the name again as if he'd mispronounced it silently. Celia's mouth parted, but no sound came out. The corners of her lipstick quivered. The MC returned to the mic, chipper and unaware of the tension radiating off table 3. Let's have a round of applause for Ms. Landon, whose generous endowment is the cornerstone of this incredible initiative. People turned in their chairs. Reporters rose. A photographer knelt beside the dais and zoomed in on Marie, framed in perfect symmetry, pearls gleaming under the chandelier light, champagne flute tilted elegantly in her hand. Derek attempted a smile. It didn't reach his eyes. Marie stood slowly, not to take the stage, but just enough to acknowledge the room. A polite nod. A quiet, thank you. She sat again before the applause fully peaked. From the corner of her eye, she caught Celia turning toward her. When did you even... Celia started. Voice hushed, strained. Do this? Marie didn't look at her. She took a sip of champagne, calm as a tide coming in. While you were picking chairs. Celia stared, blindsided. She wasn't used to being this far behind. She wasn't used to being irrelevant. Marie placed her glass down gently. Derek didn't know either. I asked the nonprofit to keep it quiet until tonight. Celia glanced toward the stage where Derek now fumbled to regain his place in the script. You blindsided him. Marie's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. You're confusing discomfort with betrayal. At another table, a councilwoman whispered to her aide. A junior associate Googled Marie's name, eyebrows lifting in surprise. Someone in the press row murmured, "She's the mother?" And at that moment, miles away, on a cracked leather sofa in a ranch house with peeling shutters, Celia's mother stared at her phone. She had Facebook open. The gala photos were already posted, filtered, captioned, and shared by the firm's PR team. One image showed Marie standing just as the screen flashed her name, regal, calm, in control. The caption read, "A special thank you to Marie T. Landon for her transformative gift." Celia's mother didn't bother zooming in. She recognized the look on Marie's face. It was the same one she'd worn when Celia brought Derek home for the first time. It was the same one Celia had mocked, called passive, weird, quietly desperate. She tapped the comment box and typed, "You should have treated her better." Then she hit post. The comment floated beneath the image like a knife slid into velvet. Back at the gala, Celia's phone buzzed once, then again. She turned it over to check and froze. Marie was still watching the stage, still smiling, still holding the room. But in that brief flicker, a glance, a breath, the edge of a smirk, Celia felt it. She wasn't in control anymore. She never had been. And the woman she'd underestimated had just taken the microphone. The email came 2 days after the gala. Subject line, "Let's talk, just us." Marie didn't reply right away. She let the message sit unread for a full 24 hours. The second follow-up came faster, shorter. "Tomorrow at 10 work for you? Derek's bringing coffee." The address listed wasn't Derek's home. It was a private conference room at a boutique wealth management office on the north side. The kind of place with floor-to-ceiling glass walls, filtered lemon water in crystal pitchers, and neutral decor so sterile it bordered on smug. Marie arrived at 9:58. Derek stood when she entered. Celia didn't. "Mom," Derek said, forcing a smile, "you look nice." "I always do," Marie replied, removing her gloves. "Especially when I'm expected to be managed." Celia blinked, already defensive. The man seated next to them, neatly dressed, maybe early 50s, stood and extended a hand. "Ms. Landon, I'm Scott Harris, senior advisor here. Derek and Celia asked me to help facilitate a broader conversation about legacy planning and, well, support systems as we age." "As you age," Marie said, accepting his handshake but not his premise. Scott chuckled, missing the edge. Of course, of course. We just like to make sure families are aligned before things get, you know, complicated." Next to him sat a second woman Marie hadn't expected, mid-40s, with a kind, clinical smile and a notebook she hadn't touched yet. "I'm Dr. Latham," the woman said, "geriatric specialist. I consult on elder independence, care transitions, and capacity evaluations." Marie turned to Derek. "You brought backup." "It's not that," Derek said quickly. "It's just, after the gala and the donation, you kind of blindsided us, and we just thought, maybe it's time to talk about how you want to handle things moving forward." "You mean, now that I've made public moves you didn't approve?" Marie asked, tone polite but slicing. "It's not about approval," Celia cut in. "It's about transparency, about financial clarity, about not making impulsive decisions that affect your long-term health and stability." Marie's gaze didn't shift. "My health is fine. But it won't always be," Celia pressed, leaning in. "And the way things looked at the gala, it made people ask questions. You're investing, you're donating, you're making moves without consulting the family. That puts us in an uncomfortable position. Your comfort is not my end goal." Derek held up a hand. "We're just trying to be proactive. If we work together now, we can avoid messy surprises later." Marie looked at the manila folder in Scott's hands, the kind that contained power of attorney paperwork, living wills, revocable trust templates. She'd seen enough of them in her years of volunteering at estate planning workshops to know exactly what they were about to propose. "You've brought documents," she said. Scott nodded. "Just drafts. We'd like to walk you through them. No pressure. There's also a form authorizing Derek as your primary decision-maker in case of emergency. Very standard stuff." Marie reached into her handbag, pulled out a leather folio, unsnapped it, and laid down her own set of documents on the polished glass table. Each one tabbed, dated, signed, notarized. "I already filed mine 6 months ago," she said calmly, "with an attorney who doesn't play doubles tennis with his clients." Scott blinked. Marie slid the top document toward Celia. "Medical power of attorney goes to Dr. Arlene Monroe, a friend and former colleague. Durable power of attorney is assigned to a trust officer at my credit union. My living will reflect my preferences in full. No need for discussion." Celia flushed. "You're joking." "I'm prepared," Marie replied. "That's not the same thing." Derek looked down, then at Scott, then finally at his mother. "You didn't tell us." "I wasn't required to." Silence stretched too long. Scott finally cleared his throat, beginning to gather the untouched paperwork. "Well, it seems like you've already taken thoughtful steps, Ms. Landon. That's great. Really." Dr. Latham nodded once, closing her notebook. Celia, however, wasn't done. "You're still part of this family. You still owe us." Marie stood. "Respect is earned. Access is granted." She buttoned her coat with slow precision. "And control," she said, "was never yours to begin with." Derek stood too, awkwardly. "You didn't have to embarrass us." Marie turned to him, softer now. "I didn't come here to embarrass you. I came to remind you. I am not an asset to be managed. I am not aging quietly in a corner. And I am not the woman you left behind when you moved in with someone who measured my worth by chair placement." Celia flinched. Marie stepped toward the door. "But thank you for the coffee." There wasn't any coffee. She left anyway. As the automatic doors slid shut behind her, her phone vibrated with a new notification. One name. Russell Templeton. A message. That was impressive. Marie didn't smile, not yet. But her heels clicked with certainty across the marble floor, and the world no longer felt like it was closing in. It was opening. One locked room at a time. The article was printed on soft, recycled paper, the kind of stock that smelled faintly like library shelves and local ink. Marie found it tucked into her mailbox, wedged between a grocery flyer and a coupon book. The cover read, "Neighbors Who Build, Quiet Forces of Change in Our City." And beneath it, a photo of Marie in front of the East Side Youth Empowerment Center, her smile gentle but steady. She stood in her kitchen, holding the open spread, and read the pull quote aloud. "Marie Landon doesn't post online. She plants things. She builds. She mentors. She gives quietly. But the impact is anything but." She set the magazine down beside a bowl of blood oranges, freshly sliced. By noon, it was everywhere. Someone posted a photo of the article in the local Facebook group. Someone else retyped it on Nextdoor. A retired school principal tagged 3 former students who had been part of Marie's old book club for underprivileged teens. The ripple was small, neighborhood level, but undeniable. At 3:12 p.m., her phone buzzed with a new message. "Angela, you changed the conversation." Marie read it twice, then once more. That evening, the Homeowners Association sent an email blast. Subject line, "Congratulations to our Volunteer of the Year, Marie Landon." It listed her contributions: the neighborhood literacy bench, the winter coat drive, her role in the garden revitalization project. Some of the items dated back years. She'd forgotten half of them, but someone had remembered. And that, she thought, said something. Meanwhile, in a second-floor boardroom downtown, Derek sat stiffly at the long oak table, surrounded by men who adjusted Rolexes like nervous ticks and women who made efficiency look expensive. A managing partner was speaking, the kind of voice that rolled forward without making eye contact. And we were pleased to see one of our larger community projects gain national attention this week. A client forwarded the article on Ms. Landon, who, I believe, is related to one of our associates. Derek? Several heads turned. Derek looked up from his phone, startled. Your mother, the partner clarified. Oh, yes, that's my mother. She certainly raised the firm's visibility. Someone else chimed in, smirking. Not often we see seven-figure donors from outside the industry. Derek forced a smile, heart kicking in his chest like it was trying to escape the tie wrapped around it. No one mentioned Celia. No one mentioned him. At that same moment, in her pristine kitchen with the all-white backsplash and mood lighting set to sophisticated blush, Celia was typing. The photo was from the gala, a candid of Derek shaking someone's hand. She cropped Marie out, added a filter, then wrote, "So proud to support community causes that make a real difference. Derek's work with the firm continues to inspire me every day." She stared at it, then hit post. 6 minutes later, the first comment rolled in. Angela. That's funny. Thought it was Marie's donation. Then another. Local Mom 87. Derek's work? Didn't your mother-in-law fund that whole project? Trina G. She deserves the credit. Don't erase women who've earned their place. Within an hour, the post had over 60 comments, most of them not so gently pointing out the glaring omission. A few shared links to the article. One user even posted a side-by-side screenshot of the boardroom moment where Marie's name was projected behind Derek. Celia tried to edit the caption. It didn't help. She tried deleting the post. Too late. Screenshots circulated like wildfire. And somewhere, far from likes and subtweets, Marie walked home from the corner store with a reusable bag of groceries. Her gait steady. Her coat collar turned up against the breeze. She passed the old brick library, where someone had taped the magazine article to the front window. A child stood there, reading it aloud to a woman holding her hand. They didn't notice Marie walk past. She didn't need them to. This, all of it, was never for spectacle. It was for permanence. Later that night, Derek sat alone in the living room. The TV was on but muted. Celia was upstairs, pacing, phone glued to her ear. Damage control. He scrolled through the comments again. Every one of them stung. Everyone reminded him that his mother had built something lasting, something that didn't require his help, or Celia's validation, or the firm's approval. His phone buzzed. Another text from Angela. Angela. Marie was always the smart one. We just didn't know it until now. He stared at it, then locked the phone. But he didn't look away from the screen. He couldn't. Because for the first time in his life, Derek Landon wasn't the main character in his own legacy. The auditorium smelled faintly of floor polish and coffee. Folding chairs gleamed under the gym lights, rows of students in pressed blazers shifting with nervous energy. Banners on the back wall read, "District Scholarship Ceremony, Building Tomorrow Together." Marie sat near the front, her hands folded in her lap. The principal's microphone crackled. And this year's East Side Youth Empowerment Scholarship goes to... A pause. Lila James. A small gasp from the second row. A thin girl stood, all elbows and grace, her hair pinned back, her shoes clearly borrowed. She walked to the stage like someone trying to remember how walking worked. Marie smiled. When the applause quieted, Lila unfolded a sheet of paper. "I was told to keep this short," she said into the mic, her voice shaking just enough to be human. "My essay was about tables, Not fancy ones, just the kind where you eat dinner. My mom worked nights, so most evenings it was just me. I wrote about what it feels like to have no one sitting across from you, and what it means when someone finally does. Her voice steadied. This scholarship means that seat won't stay empty forever. So thank you. She didn't look at Marie directly, but she didn't have to. Afterward, Lila found her near the refreshment table. You're Ms. Landon, right? She asked softly. The donor? Marie nodded. And you're the writer? Lila laughed nervously. Guess I am. You wrote beautifully, Marie said. You saw the emptiness, but you didn't let it define you. You reached for connection instead. Lila's eyes welled. You read it? I read all of them, Marie said, smiling. But yours stayed. Without thinking, she opened her arms. Lila leaned in. The hug was brief but solid, the kind that steadied more than it soothed. When they stepped back, Marie said, Do you like Italian? Lila blinked. Yes? Good, Marie said. Come to lunch. There's someone you should meet. Angela chose a corner booth at a downtown bistro, sunlight slanting through the tall windows like approval. She rose when she saw them. This must be Lila, she said warmly, offering a handshake that turned into a clasp. I've heard a lot about you. Mostly good things, I hope, Lila joked. Only the best, Angela replied. They ordered pasta, iced tea, and a shared slice of lemon cake. For a while, they talked about small things: finals week, dorm shopping, the weather being too hot for October. But conversation has a way of finding its true temperature. Angela leaned in. You know, when I was your age, I wanted to be in rooms that didn't want me there. I kept trying to earn my seat. Lila nodded slowly. Yeah, that's how I felt writing my essay. Marie stirred her tea. The trick, she said quietly, is to stop asking permission to sit. You bring your own chair. Lila looked at her, curious. Is that what you did? Marie smiled faintly. Eventually. Took longer than it should have. Angela watched her, thoughtful. And what will you do with that, Marie? All this attention, the article, the award, the momentum. You've reclaimed your place. But what comes next? Marie didn't answer right away. She looked at Lila, this girl with ink-stained fingers and a future just cracking open. And then, at Angela, the friend who'd witnessed her silence turn into strategy. I've been thinking about names, Marie said finally. For the fund, it shouldn't just be numbers on paper. It should stand for something. Lila smiled. Like what? Marie reached into her purse and pulled out a small notepad, the kind she used for grocery lists and ideas she didn't want to lose to sleep. She turned it so they could see. The Reclaimed Seat Foundation. Angela's breath caught. Perfect. Marie's tone was soft but resolute. For every woman who was told to wait her turn. For every voice asked to quiet down. For every table that made room for her plate, but not her presence. Lila's eyes shimmered. That's... wow. Angela raised her glass. To reclaiming what was always ours. They clinked gently, the sound bright and defiant. Later, Marie walked alone toward her car. The sun was low, turning the glass buildings to molten gold. Across the street, a billboard loomed, Derek's firm advertising a new pro bono campaign. His face was on it, smiling, confident, framed by words he hadn't written. She stopped. For the first time, the sight didn't sting. It didn't even ache. It was just there. Her phone buzzed, a notification from the foundation's email inbox. Her first donor inquiry, then another, and another. The future wasn't waiting for permission. Neither was she. Marie unlocked her car, slid into the driver's seat, and watched the city lights flicker on one by one, a constellation she had helped shape. Then, as her reflection caught in the window, she whispered to herself, almost like a promise, "They won't define it for me again." The summons came by courier, unassuming white envelope, no handwritten note, no heads up. Just Marie's name in stiff black ink and a court date tucked neatly inside. Petition for evaluation of mental capacity, filed by Derek Landon and Celia Foster. Claim, concern regarding recent financial decisions inconsistent with known behavior. Marie read it once, then again. Her tea went cold on the table beside her. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She called Connor. 2 weeks later, the courtroom echoed with hushed shuffles and paper rustling. It wasn't a dramatic trial. No jury. Just a probate judge with half-moon glasses and the kind of tired posture that came from decades of watching families unravel over trust funds and power of attorney. Marie sat upright in navy blue, hair pinned in place, expression calm. Connor beside her, briefcase snapped open, legal pads pristine. He had the practiced calm of someone who could deliver an evisceration with one raised brow. Across the aisle, Derek wouldn't meet her eyes. Celia did, and didn't flinch. Their attorney began with the usual sanitized concern. Ms. Landon has, in recent months, made several large financial gifts, founded a nonprofit, and initiated public efforts under her name. While we respect her autonomy, we worry these decisions reflect impaired judgment rather than long-term planning. Our clients are seeking a formal capacity review and potential guardianship evaluation. Connor rose, steady. Your Honor, we filed a full counter-petition along with notarized medical documentation. Ms. Landon has had 2 independent cognitive assessments within the last 6 months. Both confirm full mental clarity, executive function, and legal capacity. He passed the judge a folder. Inside were dates, names, signatures, and clean bills of neurological health. The judge took his time. When he looked up, his expression was neutral but final. The petition is denied. Ms. Landon's filings stand. There is no cause to pursue guardianship or evaluation. This court finds her competent, organized, and well within her rights. The gavel came down, soft but unmistakable. Celia stood immediately, her mouth opening and closing like she wanted to scream, but couldn't decide at whom. Instead, she spun on her heel and stormed out. The courtroom door slammed behind her. Only Derek remained. He approached slowly, unsure. Marie didn't rise. "I didn't want it to go this far," he said. "We just didn't want to be shut out." She looked at him for a long moment. No anger, just gravity. "That's what the folding chair was, Derek." He blinked. "What?" "That seat you put me in," she said. "At the gala, at birthdays, at your wedding. Just close enough to see things. Not close enough to be part of them." Derek opened his mouth, but Connor stepped in. "Now's not the time," he said, firm but quiet. Marie stood. She didn't look at Derek when she spoke. "You called me unstable. In writing. I won't forget that." Then she turned to Connor. "Is it done?" He gave a small nod. "Mostly. There's just one detail left." Connor pulled out a slim envelope, handed it to Derek. "What is this?" Derek asked. Marie didn't answer. Connor did. "It's an addendum to her trust. We filed it 3 months ago. Includes a no contest clause." Derek's brow furrowed. "That's standard?" Connor shook his head, a trace of something colder behind his smile. "Not this one. It's been upgraded to a lifetime enforcement clause. You challenge her competence or intent in any capacity, now or 20 years from now, and you're automatically disqualified from all future benefits. No appeals, no loopholes, no second chances." Derek's face drained of color. "She didn't—" "She did," Connor said, "because she's competent, and she's done being treated like a soft target." Marie finally met his gaze. Her voice, when it came, was calm as ever. "You taught me what exclusion feels like. I learned the lesson." She turned, her heels silent on the courthouse tile. Derek stood there, stunned, clutching a document that had the weight of permanence. And behind him, the door swung slowly closed, not slamming this time, but sealing all the same. The keypad blinked red when Derek tried it. He stood outside the gate of Marie's property, hand hovering just above the metal frame, watching the access light flash like a pulse he couldn't sync with. He tried again. The same 6 digits she'd used for years. Access denied. He didn't try a third time. Across town, Marie was standing on a stepladder in her garage, labeling folders with neat, looping handwriting. Angela stood nearby, clipboard in hand, reading off the checklist. "Emergency contacts?" "Updated," Marie said. "Primary is the Foundation's admin line. Secondary is Dr. Monroe." "Estate permissions?" "All revoked and reissued. Connor walked me through the digital filings this morning." "Medical directives?" "Triple confirmed." Marie capped her pen and stepped down. "And I had the biometric lock on the safe replaced. New fingerprint scan. Just mine." Angela nodded with quiet pride. "That's the last of it, then." Marie exhaled. "For now." On Saturday morning, the backyard smelled like fresh thyme and toasted lemon. Marie set the table herself. No caterer, no staff. Just linen napkins, thick ceramic plates, and champagne chilling in a vintage steel bucket. The garden bloomed around them in full fall color. Gold marigolds, deep crimson mums, and ivy that curled like a signature across the trellis arch. Lila arrived first, holding a homemade card in one hand and a potted plant in the other. "Hydrangeas," she said shyly. "They take root fast. Like a second chance." Marie accepted them with a smile that didn't have to stretch. Connor came next, in a soft blue shirt with sleeves rolled just enough to hint he could both file a lawsuit and build a raised bed. Then Angela, stylish as ever in a silk blouse and tennis shoes. They toasted mimosas under the pergola. There was laughter. There were second helpings. No speeches, no fanfare. Just warmth and ease. The kind of gathering that didn't have to prove itself. At one point, Lila leaned close to Marie and said, "This feels like something I've never had. Something I thought only other people got." Marie touched her hand. "This is what it feels like when you stop waiting for permission." Angela raised her glass. "To claiming what was always yours." Half an hour later, Marie excused herself. She walked down the winding stone path to the edge of the garden. The last stretch unfinished until today. One final flagstone sat beside her tools, etched in a script she'd practiced for weeks. "Welcome to my table." She knelt slowly, placed the stone into the earth, and pressed it flat. It settled in with quiet finality, not buried, not hidden, but placed where anyone could see it. Behind her, the house buzzed with soft voices and clinking glasses. In the distance, a car slowed. Celia. She sat behind the wheel of her black SUV, one hand resting on the steering wheel, the other gripping her phone. From the road, she could see glimpses of color and movement, the kind of party she used to curate with color palettes and custom hashtags. Only this one wasn't curated. It was lived. Celia didn't roll the window down. She didn't wave. She just sat there, watching. Marie stood, wiped her hands on her gardening apron, and looked straight toward the street. She didn't move closer, didn't invite, but she also didn't flinch. The message was clear. You are no longer welcome inside this gate. Not because I hate you, but because I finally love myself more. Celia drove off, slowly, silently, and didn't come back. Marie returned to the table, her hands dusted with soil, the garden stone still drying behind her like a punctuation mark. Angela raised her mimosa again. Legacy reclaimed. Marie touched the rim of her glass to Angela's. No, she said, voice steady. Legacy redesigned. They drank to that. Lila laughed softly, and for the first time, the sound didn't carry hesitation. It rang clear through the garden, curling into the ivy, winding its way across old roots and new stone. This wasn't the house they had tried to manage. This was the home they could never enter. Because it didn't belong to them. Not anymore. The auditorium was humming with anticipation, sneakers squeaking softly on gym floors, the scent of cafeteria coffee in the air, folding chairs lined in perfect rows. But the energy didn't feel like ceremony, it felt like electricity. Marie stood just behind the curtain watching them. Students, hundreds of them. Young faces, first-generation scholars, some in thrifted blazers, others in jeans and backpacks with frayed seams. They leaned forward in their chairs, notebooks on their laps, pens already uncapped. These were the ones still climbing, still being told to wait their turn. The MC's voice cut through the quiet. And now, to close our conference, we welcome someone who didn't just reclaim her seat. She built a table of her own. Founder of the Reclaimed Seat Foundation, Ms. Marie Landon. The applause rose before she reached the mic. Marie stepped into the light. Her heels didn't click. She'd worn soft shoes, ones that didn't need to make noise to command the room. Her hair was pulled back. Simple. A single silver pin on her lapel. The logo of her foundation. A folding chair. Gold-plated. Upright. She took a breath, then began. I used to think the seat mattered more than the person sitting in it. A murmur of recognition rippled through the crowd. I used to wait. For permission. For validation. For the right time to speak. I was told to be grateful for any place at the table, even if it was at the end. Even if it was temporary. Even if the seat wobbled. Lila, seated in the third row, nodded slowly. But here's the truth no one tells you, Marie said, voice growing stronger. If you wait too long for your seat, they will build the whole room around your silence. The auditorium stilled. So don't wait. Build your own. Silence. Then thunder. A standing ovation, not polite, not automatic, but earned, like breath finally being released. Students rose to their feet, clapping, whistling, hands above their heads. Some wiped tears. Others simply stood frozen, as if something inside them had just shifted. Marie didn't bow. She stepped down from the stage the way she'd stepped up. Sure-footed, steady, without apology. Back home, the air smelled faintly of cinnamon and bergamot. Marie set her bag on the entryway bench and walked into the kitchen, where soft lamplight made the countertops glow amber. A mug sat waiting beside the kettle, still warm. She filled it slowly, wrapping her hands around the ceramic like it was something sacred. On the counter sat a note, folded in half and anchored by the hydrangea pot from Lila. She opened it. Thank you for seeing me before the world did. L. No flourish, no signature, just the simple kind of gratitude that spoke volumes. Marie ran her finger gently along the crease of the note, then left it where it was. She took her tea into the dining room, her dining room, and settled into the head of the table. No gold trim, no embroidered name cards, just oak wood and honesty. Her phone buzzed once, a message from Connor. Trust is fully executed. You're untouchable now. Marie stared at the screen, the corners of her mouth lifting just slightly. She didn't reply. She didn't need to. Some victories don't demand applause. She sipped her tea slowly, letting the warmth anchor her. Outside, the garden rustled in the wind. Somewhere far beyond the hedge-lined streets and glassy towers of the city, Derek was likely still telling himself this was all a misunderstanding. And Celia, she was probably drafting another caption, trying to reclaim a narrative that no longer belonged to her. But none of that mattered anymore, because Marie had rewritten the story, not with noise, not with spectacle, but with precision, with intention, with her name, and only her name, on every document, every deed, every line of the Foundation charter now filed with the state. She looked around the room. It wasn't silent. It was full. Of memory, of purpose, of people who hadn't been erased. And as she rested her hand on the wood grain of the table she'd chosen, she thought back to all the rooms she'd once entered quietly, all the chairs she'd once been assigned, the collapsible, the cornered, the convenient. She closed her eyes, then opened them, and whispered, not bitter, not broken, just resolved. They gave me the worst seat once, and I turned it into the blueprint for my power.